Publishers Notebook Limited. Coming up in this episode we have in the pipeline Wayne A. Smith. Wayne A.C. Smith tells us about his upcoming anthology of poems. In our feature, okay, let me slow down. Ha! In our feature, what is the ISBN? Who uses it? Why is it necessary? Today we hear all about it from Nick Woods, Operations Manager of the ISBN International Agency. In Technicalities, we talk about those three little dots. How do we use them and why? And on Let's Talk With, we speak to Dr. Amaral Shamaya, author, destiny coach, entrepreneur, and transformational speaker about her company, Authentic Lifestyle Coaching.
Hey, I'm happy to announce the publication of my very first anthology of poems entitled One Voice for Many Hearts. Enjoy the journey with me. I'm Wayne A.C. Smith, in the pipeline of the Publisher's Notebook. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, let me just fix myself here. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hello, Sylvia. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, the program.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just tell people, everyone, I'm talking to Nick Woods today from the ISBN International Agency. And he's going to tell us all about the ISBN. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, Nick, because there's sometimes a lot of confusion here. I know in Jamaica, and from what I'm seeing on forums all over the world, on Facebook and so on, there seems to be some confusion about what it is, what it's used for, how it's used, and so on. So I'm going to just go ahead and just shoot you some questions, and you see if you can just help us out here. Hopefully, there'll be some clarity after we're all finished. So the first question is, what's the ISBN and how does it help the author / publisher?
Okay, so ISBN is the International Standard Book Number. It is simply an identifier, and it's an identification number that uniquely and unambiguously identifies every version of a book. My organization, the International ISBN Agency, is in charge of being the registration authority for that system worldwide. So we help administer it, and we do that with the help of regional agencies across the world. And for publishers in Jamaica, the regional agency is CARICOM, the Caribbean Community Agency. It helps authors and publishers enormously in a lot of different ways. Firstly, it is the hook, if you like, on which you can hang all the other information about your book. So things like the format, the type, the title, the language of the publication, they can all be drawn together with the ISBN, and that information is communicated across the supply chain to distributors, to retailers, from publishers and from authors. The ISBN is also useful to help maximize an author's sales potential. Often you will find that a retailer may not take orders of a book without the ISBN, so it's necessary to get ISBN to get that book into that retailer's website or bookshop. The ISBN can also help with electronic scanning and ordering, because the ISBN can be rendered as the barcodes with which we're all familiar as well. So there are a lot of different ways in which the ISBN can help authors and publishers.
Okay, so we see ISBN 10, ISBN 13. What's the difference?
Okay, well, put simply, ISBN 13 is the current format of the number. For the last 14 years, all ISBNs have been 13 digits in length, and that is composed of 5 parts. So any new ISBNs that you would obtain now, they should be 13 digits in length. Now,
Okay.
10 digit.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
I was just going to say the 10 digit, that's not to say that 10 digit ISBNs are no longer valid. If you see a 10 digit ISBN on a book, it's still a valid number, but there is a 13 digit equivalent of all the 10 digit numbers. And so for reprints and for other reasons, you should always quote the 13 digit number from now on. And you would certainly get a 13 digit number if you were to get an ISBN today.
Okay. So our next question is, does a self-publisher need a different ISBN for each platform he or she uploads to? So for example, if they're uploading to Amazon versus Barnes and Noble or Draft Digital or any of those other platforms, do they need a different ISBN for each platform? Or is it that they need a different ISBN for each type of book? And before you continue, let me just say welcome to our viewers. Welcome to our viewer in the chat. Feel free to post any question you may have in the comments about the ISBN, and we shall certainly forward them to Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
Okay. I mean, the last part of your question, you essentially have hit the nail on the head. It's the platform itself doesn't matter. You don't need a new ISBN for each platform per se. You do need an ISBN for each format. Mm-hmm. And in practice at the moment, that does mean you need a different ISBN for Amazon, because Amazon uses the Mobi format for its ebooks, and that's different from some of the other platforms. And then one secondary point is that you also need a different ISBN if the platforms have different restrictions on what you can do with an ebook. There's something called digital rights management, which is software that may, for example, prevent you printing. And if on one ebook you can print, and on the other ebook that does not let you to print, then again you would need a different ISBN. So it's the format that matters. It's what the end user can do. The
format that matters the most. So, but prior to, well, it's only just recently I'm seeing where the CARICOM Secretariat online form, I have to speak to them because they're who we deal with here in Jamaica. But they are now saying I'm giving you a different option to select for Kindle versus ebook. Whereas it never used to be like that before. I mean, you could just use the ISBN for an ebook, whether it be Mobi or EPUB. Is there any problems if you just use the same ISBN, or do you definitely have to get a different ISBN because you're now breaking down? Well, I don't know if it's you or them breaking down the ebook categories.
I mean, the short answer is it's the second one. I would definitely always advocate that you should get a different ISBN for every format. I mean, it is quite a confusing area, but the ISBN is the rules are only as confusing as the marketplace is. Obviously, there are so many different products now that, far more different types of products are available now than they were even 5 or 10 years ago. So I would say, yeah, if the one way of looking at it is if the end user, if the customer needs to know that it's this type of product rather than this type of product, then you will need a different ISBN. So if they're going to get a product that they can use on the Kindle, they'll need to know it's the right format, the Mobi format for Kindle, rather than a PDF or an EPUB ebook. So,
okay.
Yes.
All right. So can an entity, a person, or an organization call itself a publisher? Well, not a person. Let's say an entity or an organization call itself a publisher if it doesn't have its own block of IBNs.
Okay. I mean, on this question, I think I would not quite define it in that way. Okay. So on one hand, for the purposes of ISBN, anyone that initiates the production of a book and bears the financial risk of bringing that book into the marketplace, they can get an ISBN regardless of the type of organization. Mm-hmm. So one example that I like to quote sometimes is there may be a hill walking association, clearly not a publisher, But if they choose to bring a book to market, it might be the 50th anniversary commemorative book about their association. If they are responsible for initiating that publication, they bring it to market themselves, they publish it themselves, then they can get an ISBN. So for ISBN purposes, anyone that performs that role can be a publisher, even if their main business is something else. And obviously that includes people. So if a person, as a self-publishing author, chooses to initiate the production of their book, they are the ones bearing the risk and the financial outlay of bringing that book to market, then it's absolutely fine for that individual to get the ISBNs directly.
Okay, so what if somebody has a company and they are publishing for somebody, and their company buys the ISBNs and assigns them to the book because they are the publisher by contract? Is that different from a publishing company telling an author that they must purchase the ISBN, in which case it would still be the author who is the publisher of the book? In other words, is it the publisher that owns the ISBN?
I mean, again, the short answer to that last point is the publisher is the one that owns the ISBN. There do exist what we call self-publishing services providers. And often as part of their package, they will offer the ISBN for the author. Now, on one hand, that is a perfectly acceptable, permissible arrangement. We allow it. But it is important to note that because the self-publishing services provider gets the ISBN, then for the purposes of ISBN and the databases about their books, then that provider's name will be counted as the publisher. It will appear as though the provider is the publisher, not the author. So if the author wants to appear as their publisher, then they should get the ISBN directly.
Their own ISBN.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, the question.
Both options are okay, I should say. Both options are allowed in the system.
Okay. So, so the entity that owns the ISBN, can they receive publisher's royalty from? Okay, no. Let me rephrase that. So let's say I am a publishing service organization, but I don't provide the ISBN. I, however, have my clients get their own ISBN. Can I receive a publisher's royalty from reproductive rights management organizations if I am not the owner of the ISBN?
Well, I mean, the answer should be yes if you are the copyright holder. One important point here is that ISBN is an identifier. It is not copyright. They're different things. So you can't automatically assume who is the copyright owner from simply the ISBN. The ISBN is given to the publisher at the time of publication. But as we know, copyright may change hands somewhere down the line, but the ISBN is immutable. The ISBN does not. So you can't automatically assume who is the copyright owner from the ISBN.
Okay.
But our RROs, rights management organizations, do use ISBN, of course, to identify the books.
Okay. Is an ISBN transferable in the case of death? In other words, let's not talk companies now, let's talk individuals.
The answer to that question is regrettably no, it is not. Part of the fundamental point of ISBN is that once assigned, it can never be transferred. It is immutable. It's assigned to the original person. And we often encourage our regional agencies like CARICOM to be quite conservative with how they assign ISBNs, because if something unforeseen happens, we know that you can't then use it for someone else. It has to stay with that person in perpetuity. Okay,
well, that answers my next question, which was, can the ISBN be transferred from publisher to author? So I guess that answers that right away. Okay, so
yes.
Self-publisher doing a series of books in magazine format, meaning that the book and the magazine will continue with the same title. So let's say From the Rooftop, but only differentiated by volume 1, volume 2. Would the publisher get an ISBN or an ISSN? And which one would they get?
I mean, it's an interesting question, and before I answer that directly,
Oh, sorry.
I think
Let me just interrupt you for a minute. An ISSN is an international serial. I forgot what the other S is.
yeah,
It's
international
a serial
standard
number.
serial number.
Standard serial number, right?
Yes, I mean, the crux of this is to define the difference between what we call a monograph, which is a book with a defined end, and a serial, which is a continuum resource. So ISBN is for a book or a series of books that have a defined end. A good famous example is the Harry Potter books. That's not just one book, it's 7 books, and each is defined by an ISBN, because each of those is self-contained, it's monographic, it ends, and the series was expected to finish and obviously has now finished. On the other hand, you have things like newspapers and magazines which continue indefinitely. A newspaper is published daily or weekly, and there's no expectation that's going to finish. For that type of resource, which we call a serial, you would assign ISSN.
Okay, so there would be no need to apply for an ISBN for a periodical or something that, as you say, there is no end in sight to it. There's no expected end. Is that correct?
Exactly. Is exactly right. Now, yes, no, exactly as you say.
Okay,
they would be ISSN.
2 last questions before you go. Can you break down the ISBN for us? What each segment represents?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So, an ISBN is 5 parts. There are 5 components that make up 13 digits in total. The first part, which is called the EAN prefix, it basically identifies that it is a book rather than any other type of product. If you get an ISBN in Jamaica, it will always be 978. There are some books in other countries that may begin 979. The second part defines the issuing registration authority. So the second part for CARICOM is 976.
76, okay.
Yeah. The third is the registrant element, and that will tell you who is the publisher. The fourth is the publication element, and is different for each individual version of every publication. The final element, which is always 1 digit, is a check digit, and that just verifies the rest of the number. It stops people just making up their own string.
Yes, because I guess they will do that. Okay.
Yes, they do.
One more, just let me just welcome again our viewers online on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for coming in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them. We have Nick just for a few more minutes. Dr. Amaral Shamaya says, that's a lot of stuff for ISBN. I said a lot of people didn't really think about what it could mean. So the only question I have left that I can think of right now is, are there what legal issues can arise from using an ISBN incorrectly?
Wow.
In a nutshell, I know there must be a lot, but just generally speaking, the most common ones that would come to your mind.
I mean, actually, in a way, it's the reverse, because we don't, in most of the world, ISBN, firstly, is not a legal requirement. Now, practically speaking, because it's so well used and so successful, most people will find that they use ISBN, but it's normally not a legal requirement. I mean, we try to be, ISBN, I should also say, has not been trademarked. We obviously do not want people passing themselves off to use ISBN when they're not entitled to do it. And you should obviously, the standard works because people.
And you shouldn't make up an ISBN.
Absolutely. I mean, the standard. One thing I would say, if there's a highlight, a bullet point, is that you should apply the standard properly. And this applies to publishers just as much as it's to agencies. It works because everyone uses the system properly, and so that they can uniquely and unambiguously identify their products. I mean, if you would like to go onto the website, I know there was a comment from a gentleman who said there's a lot of detail. We do publish.
It's a female, Dr. Shamaya.
I beg your pardon. But yes, we do publish a user's manual in several languages on the website of our organization, the International ISBN Agency. So that does contain a lot of information about how to apply ISBN properly.
Well, we do have the link to that organization and to that website in the description of the YouTube
Okay.
and Facebook description. So you can go to that link. All links related to ISBN and other information that we do here on this program are founded in the description boxes. Nick, thank you so much for coming. It's good to see you face to face for a change.
Likewise, thank you very much for having me.
I might ask you to come on again at another time, way down, but there were some other questions that came up through the National Library through a friend of mine there, but I wanted to talk with them first. So maybe what we'll do is we'll work by email first, and if it's something that we need to bring to the public for, we can schedule another interview on this broadcast. But I thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm almost afraid to ask you what time it is there now, because I think you look like 6 hours ahead of us, I think.
5 hours. It's fine. It's 20 past 8 in the evening here.
Oh, still early days.
Still early days, absolutely. And we're still locked down here in London, so I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And with that, we bid you adieu. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. And in Technicalities today, we look at ellipses, those 3 little dots. What are they for, really? Do they have any use? What do we really need them for? Let's talk about it. So an ellipsis, or plural ellipses, is a punctuation mark consisting of 3 dots. You use an ellipsis when omitting a word, a phrase, a line, paragraph, or more from a quoted passage. Ellipses save space and remove material that is less than relevant. Now, here's an example. Let's say I'm editing a book and I want to tell the client, okay, let's say they have a paragraph and I want to change just the first part of that paragraph, and somewhere else in the paragraph, I would suggest a change for the first paragraph. I'd put my ellipses and then I'd put the start of where I would want the person to change. So that is how you use an ellipsis, and that's it for technicalities. Hello, Amarel. Dr. Shamaya.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Today we're on Let's Talk With. We're talking with Dr. Amarel Shamaya. Now, let me read off what I have here. Author, destiny coach, entrepreneur, transformational speaker, woman of God, all around good girl. Where's the Amarel?
I like the way that sounds.
Today we're talking to her about her company, Authentic Lifestyle Coaching. And as you may know, those of you who are familiar with this channel, that in this segment we talk to kingdompreneurs about their businesses. And as you saw from our very fancy ad a while ago, if you wish to advertise with us, that's contact information. We'll run it again one more time for you later on. Amarel, tell us about lifestyle coaching. I mean, everywhere you turn now, there's somebody doing lifestyle coaching. How do you stand out?
Oh, thank you for having me. It's really, really wonderful to be here. Well, I've transitioned into mindset coaching because I realize in life, on a whole, everything you do stems from the mind. And I used to focus a lot on financial coaching, but then I came to realize that even though you have persons that you're teaching how to manage their money on the basis that they are not in the position where their mindset is in the right place, then the money doesn't work. And the business that I helped them to establish is not working as it should. And so, even though every single coaching area that I focus on has mindset, I decided to not just certify myself in that area, but to also provide true, authentic strategies that will help people to set their minds right so that their money, their peace, and their life in general can be right. So, how do I stand out? I stand out because I use what I call hot, honest, open, and transparent strategies and conversations to help people set their mind straight so that their business and their life can be set straight in general.
I like that. I like that. Oh, there's a greeting for you here in the chat. So let me just put it up there.
Well,
Yeah, my
that's
big
my
friend. Hi,
daughter.
Samik. How are you? Okay, now tell us more about what you offer as part of the authentic lifestyle coaching package. And Samik says super proud of you, and she's saying hot. Tell me about hot again. Honest, open,
Hot,
and
honest, open, and transparent.
nice. I like that.
Right.
So
Thank you.
it helps. Yes, I find that when people are when you take that approach, people tend to you tend to break down some barriers that are in the mind.
That is
And
true.
and I'll be talking to you sometime in the very near future about my program, the Beyond Now program, which is
Okay.
living for today but strategizing for tomorrow, and we're working along
Tomorrow.
the same goals actually, so we'll be collaborating on that another time.
Anytime.
But tell me, so a client comes to Dr. Shamaya, what's next?
Okay, we have a very simple but effective onboarding process. The first thing that I would do is to ensure we are a good fit because you don't become a client just because you need a problem and I can possibly solve it. The reality
Mm-hmm,
is you may not be ready to solve the problem. You may just
mm-hmm,
need somebody to talk to, and
mm-hmm,
I can do that. So we would begin with a simple 45-minute conversation because coaching is really a conversation that helps you to find solutions that were really in you in the first place. All right.
mm-hmm,
So after we would have that conversation, we would see if we're a good fit. What makes a good fit? You being ready for the process by the
mm-hmm,
questions I would ask and how you would
mm-hmm,
answer them. And secondly, of course, finances would come last, but that is also a part of it because there are different tiers in what I offer. So there is basic, there is medium, and of course there is a premium program that lasts for 3 to 6 months.
mm-hmm,
So after the questions are done, I realize where you are and we see how the relationship can work. Then I would send you an online because at this moment, even outside of COVID, I mostly did online coaching because I fear it was more effective. I was able to reach persons in the US, Canada, Caribbean because honestly
yeah.
speaking, honestly speaking, most of my clients are from the US and Canada. I really do not have a lot of Jamaican clients. That's extremely
But
interesting.
Jesus himself said a prophet has no honor in his own country, So,
That is directly true.
so there you go.
That's really so true. So if we are a good fit, then from there I would send you a simple care package that tells you how we're going to work, where we're going to work. I mean, by that time you would have already paid what the cost
Mm-hmm,
is. And right, I would send you a simple package explaining where we're going, how we're going, and
mm-hmm,
give you some simple action steps to start with to see where your mind is at. Because the reality is sometimes we're ready and then you get scared by the process because
yes.
you don't give people the vehicle, you give them the destination. Because if you tell them
Mm-hmm,
the vehicle, that's going to be a problem.
yeah.
So I would say
Because
if you want, mhm.
that reminds me of an incident. I remember when in my 20s, I was going on a field trip, for a company field trip up to Sincona Gardens up in Blue Mountain. And I almost chickened out because I realized we were going up in the back of a dump truck. Okay. So sometimes you really can. And then on the way up, this is really, really how the journeys that we have to take end up. Sometimes
Mm.
in that particular truck, I'm gonna just tell you this joke and then we continue, right? But you know me, Amaryl.
Go right ahead.
Basically,
Cover the
the
thing.
truck was turning a corner to the right, okay, and
Alright.
a part of one of the wheels came off the ledge. This is Blue Mountain, so there's
Yeesh.
no retaining wall most of the way, right? And everybody in the truck and the back of the truck, except yours truly and someone else, ran to the side where the precipice was to look.
Oh my gosh.
Yours truly bail out of the truck and walk up the hill to. The truck didn't go over, thankfully, but I wasn't going to be there in case it did, right?
To take the chance.
Yes, I came out of the truck and my friend, and we walked up to the
Mm.
nearest shop where they had ice cold beer on the shelf, because it's Blue Mountain, where we had a beer each and we sat and waited until the truck came, because that was a
Oh,
scheduled rest
sweet
stop
Jesus.
anyway, right?
Right.
So
Mm-mm.
sometimes, there are some trucks they're going to have to bail out of. And they might want to stay with the crowd because the crowd is there, but you're going
Mm-hmm.
for your own safety. You have to bail out of the truck and walk a little bit, right? I make the truck catch up back with you. So I understand perfectly what you're talking about. But
Mm-hmm.
authentic lifestyle coaching is not the only thing that you do. So I want you to, although
No.
that's what we said with feature, but you know me
Mm-hmm.
already.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go with whatever the Holy Spirit telling me. So just give me a moment. Let me just run my ad, and we come back and
Sure.
we talk about your graphic design business.
Okay. No problem.
Like my ad.
It's fascinating. It's
Amaral.
very familiar.
Whoa, let's talk about your graphic design business now.
Yeah. Okay, well, I do have a graphic design company. It is called Special Gem Designs. We focus on basically bringing the designs you have in your mind to life. Whatever your imagination is, we try to put that on paper or in color for you to see and create. I don't know. It's amazing because it started with us being a clothing company. That's where it started, and it just transformed into graphic designs. We've done several logos for companies, for businesses, for myself. We do book covers, we do flyers, we do banners, you name it. We do business cards. Yeah,
You do the whole gamut.
we actually do the whole gamut.
What I don't have for you, Amaral, is a phone number. However, if persons wanting to get in touch with Amaral, there's her social media information running down there, and there's the email for authentic lifestyle coaching. So they'll be able to get in touch with you. And although we're
Right.
currently out of time, I just want to say that Amaral is also the CEO of Diamond Destiny Publishing. She also publishes for the Christian genre. We collaborate a lot and we use each other's services because
Yes,
we
we
are really
do.
about the kingdom,
Kingdom
not just
business.
about, yes, we're competitors, but we're not about cutting
We
each other's throat.
collaborate.
We don't reinvent the wheel. If Amaral has a service that I can't use, that I can't bother to create at the time, I use her service because
And
that is what
likewise.
kingdom is all about. And Amaral uses my service. So I'm just saying that to encourage us out there in the kingdompreneurs. Let us make use of each other's services. Okay, Samik, thank you very much. As Samik, let me show you Samik's reaction to the ad. Okay, so that and she says she loves it. Thank you, Samik. I really appreciate it. Um, I love you too. You're such a cool, cool, cool cool person. All right,
And she's
now,
actually the person who manages my graphic design
all
company.
right, all right. You know, I'm
Yes.
gonna go test out our skills. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amaral, for coming. And it was on such short notice. I really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
And everyone, look out for us on the second Monday of April. Remember, we air on the second and fourth Monday of each month. I think my internet just slowed down. But at 3 o'clock, on time, every time, where we try to have topics relevant to the publishing industry as well as
Right.
to highlight kingdompreneurs. So if you know anyone who wants to get their products on board, you can just refer to the video ad that we had. And the number is there. The publisher's notebook at Gmail, telephone number 3310727. All right, Amaral, thank you so much. I really
No
appreciate
problem.
this. And I'm
No
sure I'll be
problem at
talking
all.
to you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye bye.
Sure, no problem. Take care.